Nearly 35 years after he tried to assassinate President Ronald Reagan, John Hinckley is spending an increasing amount of time at his mother's home in southeastern Virginia and less time at St. Elizabeth's Mental Hospital in Washington, where he's been confined for decades.
John's a very sweet and considerate person.
The majority of people don't want him back here. They just don't want to take the chance.
A federal judge oversees the release program for Hinckley, who jurors found not guilty by reason of insanity, saying he needed treatment, not a lifetime in confinement. Hearings, set for this week, could allow him to spend even more time with his mother, who lives in a resort development near Colonial Williamsburg. Someday, he could live there permanently.
I had no fear. He never did anything out of the way, anything abnormal. He was just always a kind, sweet, gentle soul. He gave me this one.
He plays the guitar and paints. Hinckley is on medication to prevent psychosis and combat anxiety. When in Williamsburg, he's required to meet regularly with a psychiatrist and a therapist. He has a driver's license with limited privileges to drive unaccompanied, but he must carry a GPS-enabled cell phone during all unsupervised activities.
John Hinckley Jr., the man who tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan outside the Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. in 1981, will be freed after 35 years and allowed to live with his mother in Virginia. What a scene, what a moment that was. It really crystallized Reagan's presidency and the early months of his time in the White House. And you think about the visits to the hospital bed with Nancy Reagan and how he was able to interject humor into an otherwise awful moment in American history. And we all know about James Brady and the two others who were hit by Hinckley's bullets. But John Hinckley Jr., after years of trying to be released, has now been granted his wish. That's some breaking news happening moments ago.
With very interesting head-scratching timing, it has been announced that John Hinckley Jr., the man that attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan in 1981, will now be released to his mother's residence in Williamsburg, Virginia on August 2nd of 2016. Now, this has been in the news for quite a long time. I live in Virginia. I don't live too far from Williamsburg, so I've seen it on local news for a long time that they were planning on releasing him. Now, he's not been in jail for this entire time. I think that he was able to plead insanity back in 81 or 82, whenever it was, where he went to trial. So for the past 35 years, he's been in St. Elizabeth Hospital in Washington, D.C., and basically just kind of rotting away. I don't know what they're doing. Personally, if you ask me what should have happened to him back then, I say put some cement shoes on him and dump him in the James River and let him just have a nice nap down there. That'd be what I say. I think that when you're talking about people that kill presidents or try to kill presidents, I don't think it should be any option off the table. I don't think it should be any kind of morality or any kind of feelings involved. I think you should go ahead and just eliminate them right there, especially if they are caught red-handed. Not in a situation where you don't know who did it and you're trying to gather information. Nah, if you caught them red-handed like they did with John Hinckley Jr., get rid of them right away. The death penalty should be able to be accelerated to right now. Don't waste no time. Don't waste no taxpayer money. Just do it. But I digress. Now, I'm not advocating anybody do anything to him right now. All I'm saying is what could have happened back then. So now they're going to release him to the custody of his mother. They're going to release him on August 2nd of this year to Williamsburg, Virginia. Now, Williamsburg is not a highly populated area, so I think he'll be okay, especially since they're going to have him on high, very, very, very high scrutiny. He can't be within 30 miles of Washington, D.C., except for appointments in D.C. Now, I don't know what appointments he has in D.C. I think that hospital he was in, St. Elizabeth, was in Washington, D.C., so he has to go there probably for checkups, but I'm not quite sure what appointments he has. And for the most part, he'll be very under wraps, very strict. He can't be on the internet. He can't make any posts on the internet. He can't have access to a gun. He must log all of his social interaction. He can't have any kind of contact with Jodie Foster. Now, if you remember, the whole thing back then was the reasoning for him trying to assassinate Ronald Reagan. The reason why he shot him is because he watched Taxi Driver over and over again, and he was trying to impress the actress Jodie Foster. Now, of course, she's still living, so she's off limits, of course, which is obvious. He can't make any kind of contact with any kind of government official, definitely not the president, vice president, or anything like that. He can't own a gun. You know, he has very strict rules and regulations that are put upon him. But my whole thing, aside from all of that, is why must he be released right now? I mean, why release him right now during the presidential campaign? The timing, to me, is kind of crazy because, like I said, I've been seeing this on the news for the past at least 2 years here in Virginia because, again, I don't live too far from Williamsburg, so it was news that they were going to release him to his mother. People were kind of protesting it. Like, it was a big story here for a very long time now, at least 1 year, but probably 2 years. So to see that he's going to be released now, matter of fact, I thought he was already out because they had been reporting it like he was going to be released to Williamsburg like right now. So I thought he was already out and home. I had no idea he was still locked up in the hospital. So they're going to release him. And the reason that they're trying to give is because of the Constitution, or they got to let him go when he's ready. Well, what makes him ready right now in the middle of a presidential campaign and he was not ready 2 years ago when they were talking about releasing him, right? It would have made more sense to release him back then rather than releasing him right now. I mean, you're digging up an old wound, especially with Donald Trump being the lead candidate who we all think is going to be the president, especially with Hillary Clinton faltering with the DNC email leak. I think all of this is a Washington, D.C. ploy. Again, it's not a coincidence that this hospital was in Washington, D.C., where he's been at for the past 35 years. I mean, how many lobbyists on Capitol Hill can get him released, right? And what better time to do it than right now when you have Donald Trump, who's been compared to Ronald Reagan, could become the president? Because there's been attacks on Donald Trump, just like what happened when he was in Ohio at a rally.
So folks, here's what happens. I will call up Carrie, the president. I guess I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
Right? That guy almost got him. I think it was another rally where a guy tried to grab a gun and shoot Donald Trump.
A British man is in custody this morning after claiming he had plans to assassinate Donald Trump. Michael Stephen Stanford is his name. He was arrested Saturday at a Trump rally. Police say that he tried to grab an officer's gun so that he could shoot the presumptive Republican nominee. Investigators say that he apparently plotted this attack for about a year now.
I'm not quite sure where that was, but it was a separate incident from the one in Ohio where the guy hopped a barrier and tried to attack him physically. It was a separate incident from that where the guy actually tried to get a gun from an officer and shoot Trump, right? So it's all kind of crazy stuff going on. It's all kind of threats. I think it was a associate producer or somebody over at NBC. I'm not quite sure who this is, but from what I've been able to see on these blogs, I think I saw it on Breitbart, and the guy kind of suggested that it could be a good guy with a gun or somebody was to assassinate Donald Trump. Stuff like that that's been said from air quotes professionals lets me know that there's a lot of hostility towards Trump in a dangerous way. So then when you release somebody like John Hinckley Jr. right during the midst of Trump running and all these threats and all the attempts to get him, all these different things happening, this is just bad timing. But again, lobbyists on Capitol Hill that may not want Donald Trump to get in there, I wouldn't really put this past them to get him released just for the optics of it as a threat to Donald Trump. Like, hey, don't get too happy. You're not in office yet. Something could happen. But that'd be terrible. You know, I don't think that anybody's going to do anything. I don't think anybody do anything to John Hinckley Jr. because, like I said, he's going to be under tight scrutiny. So if you try to do something to him, he's under scrutiny. So you're going to be under scrutiny as well. They're going to see you too. You can't do something to him and get away with it. Right. And Donald Trump is the same way. He's under tight scrutiny as well. So I don't think anything's going to happen to him, especially since he has such great security. I'm definitely praying for him, though, because there's been a lot of threats thrown in his direction. But like I say, the timing is just very interesting. The timing is it's a head scratcher to me. But like I say, it would make sense coming from the left to release him right now as a threat, kind of like voter intimidation. People that understand the connection, they may think twice about voting. So what do you think? Do you think that this was intentionally done to release John Hinckley Jr., the man who tried to kill Ronald Reagan in 1981 during the presidential campaign where Trump could be the guy that wins? And he has been compared to Ronald Reagan. Do you think it was done to intentionally scare Donald Trump and or to scare voters that may want to vote for Donald Trump? Or is it a simple coincidence, right? According to the Constitution, he has to be released when he's ready. Now, I don't know when he was ready or when he wasn't ready. I mean, if I'm locked up, I'm ready right now. I'm ready right when you lock me up to go. So how do you determine when he's ready or when he's not? I'm not a mental health professional. Maybe some of you out there are and know about this more than me. Whatever your angle, theories, comments, concerns are on either side of agreeing with releasing Hinckley, disagreeing with releasing Hinckley, or being completely indifferent, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.